it's I feel like that's a place where the left alienates a lot of people actually with the take.
Yes, I think it's crazy. So like for example, I think I should be able to come out and say, hey, to those of you who are acting violent at these events, I do not condone that. I think that's horrific. But what I've learned with the left is like, you have to, I mean, you basically have to lie. You have to say, no, it was all peaceful. And if you don't say it was all peaceful, then your own team will attack you. And to me, that's crazy because two things can be true at once. And I've just learned that either side cannot seem to understand nuance very well. You can come out and say, hey, yeah, the majority of the people who protested during the day were peaceful. You had the strays who went off and committed violence. We should not condone that. And then once 5 p.m. hits, yeah, you got a bunch of people who are coming out to cause ruckus. You know what I mean? It's like when the sun goes down, the riots start. It's protest, then sun goes down, then it turns to riots. We should be able to say that. And when we're not able to say that, the right looks at us and they're like, are you gaslighting me? Like every time I'm over here and I say, this is something that frustrates me because I'll say like, hey, BLM, was largely a peaceful protest, but there was a bunch of destruction that happened. There was, millions or billions of dollars worth of destruction in this country from that. It's almost like, even though that's a fact, you can't say it without your own party demonizing you. Republicans see that and they're just like, yo, you're gaslighting me, you're lying to me, or you're not living in reality.
And I think it's more than just Republicans. I think it's the center of America that feels that as well. And
yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things too is that on the Republican side, at least, they're not interested in calling that stuff out. And one of the big appeals that they have had to at least young men is that things like January 6th look cool. I mean, it just looks cool to them to be like a super, hyper masculine and violent and to kind of take control of things. And you see a lot, if you go on Instagram, God only knows these reels are insane. They're all right wing. They're all racist. They're all very conservative core. And I think that might be one of the failings of the left is that we don't do a good job at making like progressivism look cool.
Oh no. We're soy nation over here, man. And oh man, like it's something that I want fixed because we are not appealing to young men at all.
All these people in the chat, I would like people, Jaden, you got Ariel. Like, if you have some criticism to say, like, stop being a keyboard warrior, hop in here and actually have a conversation. Because, like, you can type all you want. You're not even, like, elaborating on what you're saying. It doesn't add anything. I just wanted to shout that out. That was just rubbing me the wrong way for a little bit.
Well, yeah, and these are people who are most likely on our side, too, which is what makes it the most interesting, is because they're crying about the Donald Trump administration, and then it's like they want to do everything to make sure that we continue down the path of electing the very people that they don't want to be in office. It's like, it's kind of like me, like pretend I was a lifeguard and you were drowning, and I came to save you, and you said, oh, I don't like the color of your shirt, I'm just going to drown. It's like, what? You're refusing help because I'm trying to help you, and I just never understood that.
True. I agree. I think we just, when it comes around, like, we just gotta get on board with the candidate and say, hey, sometimes the candidate is fucked up, but we have to support them anyways. You have people who were, like, voting in private, and so what they were doing was they were, like, only calling out the bad things about Kamala, and only, like, just kind of bashing her up until the election. And then afterwards, you have people like Hassan who are like, oh, yeah, I actually voted for Kamala. And it's like, okay, why weren't you pushing her to your base? If you presumably you believe she should have won if you voted for her, why weren't you telling your base that?
I know, and when I think people have asked that, he was like, well, I'm in California, so, like, the vote doesn't even matter. It's like, well, your message reaches all of America plus, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah.
So just let California turn red slowly, like, okay.
Well, and this is a good question. How do we think the left should appeal to young men? What's the solution? I think there's many solutions. I think one of the biggest solutions is building up our media spaces. So, like, when we have creators who are drumming out these very necessary messages, we don't just tear them down. When we start taking our own media out, we are all a portion of independent media, whether we like it or not. If like a conservative, their influencers all build up into their media sphere. We have the same thing, but except over on that side, when there's an influencer that maybe they don't get along with, they just put their head down. Like many of the conservative influencers, they don't like OM, but you don't see them tearing down OM. It's just, they just let OM do what he does. Same thing over here, except when we have our media, we start to tear each other down. And I think that's when we start to exacerbate the blue circle versus red circle. Our blue circles are shrinking, theirs are rising. And then I also think that we just need to get involved in more spaces. So when it comes to like building something that mirrors Turning Point USA, I think that is a good start. And I also think getting creators into, I mean, like, they dominate the health spaces, the gym spaces. Yes. We need to do that as well. They dominate gamer spaces. We need to go into those spaces as well. We have to, and we do politics, and that's great, but I think we also have to get into lifestyle content, or encourage more content creators who are left-leaning, but who do present lifestyle, either entertainment, and podcasts, things like that. I think Midas Touch was great, and I think the Fuck Around and Find Out podcast, the great addition to our media.
Right. I think another big one is patriotism, ironically. Like, we can't let the right have a monopoly on patriotism. And as a young man myself, and talking to other young men, like, no young man wants to grow up hating the country that they're in. Like, you can love America and still have many criticisms and want it to be better without, like, you know, having to have this like framing of America as the worst, or like we hate. Like, I feel like the left has that image, and I feel like that's also damaging to the psyche of young men and what path they choose politically, you know.
Yeah, I can agree. I have an American flag that hangs on my wall. And it's funny because I make videos in my bathroom, and that's like a good 15, 20 feet away from this American flag that's on my wall. And people keep commenting on the flag in the background, and they're like, why is that hanging up? Why do you have that flag there? And I'm like, wait, that's kind of crazy, guys. It's a camo American flag on my wall. I'm not sure, like, what am I not supposed to be hanging that? I don't know, I've never experienced that on the right. Like, they love that flag, and over here I've gotten shit for hanging that flag. And there are a lot of people who are patriotic over here, but I just think we need to drum up more patriotism.
I'm also really quickly, I mean, and this will detract a little bit from this conversation, but I just want it to be clear. I have invited Dean, who I've seen in the comments multiple times, up onto my live, because he made a comment very publicly in a chat saying that my defense of Z was strange. And when I asked for an explanation, I mean, he's DM'd with me back and forth before. We've been longtime mutuals. I've known Dean before he got popular on here. He said the character limit was too short for him in another live chat, and hasn't DM'd me. Won't respond to my DMs. So if that is strange, I don't approve of the random public accusation. I don't think I'm anywhere near Destiny. If you have problems talking to Destiny, which I'm not convinced you do actually have problems talking to him. I just think it's weird to like make these accusations publicly and then to not address them with the person you made them about. But
did he say what was strange? Did he say what was strange?
No, that's what I asked him, and he didn't respond. I thought your art the other day was terrible. Okay, then come up and talk about it. I don't appreciate the accusations publicly without a conversation.
Well, what was your argument?
I don't actually know what part of my argument he had a problem with.
Well, what was your overall argument?
I mean, we just talked about, like, look, Z said, the screenshots are fake. We still support, the tour. I'm not even sure what argument he's talking about, but he won't clarify.
Oh, you were saying the screenshots were fake?
Yes, that's what's been said. That was what was talked about on that live particularly.
So he doesn't think the screenshots are faked?
No clue. He won't elaborate. I'm out of the house, can maybe pop up later. Okay, well, you've been invited multiple times. I'm sure you've been home one of the times I've invited you. So I think it's kind of unfair, at least especially publicly, with someone with a big platform making accusations. So I think it's unfair that you haven't talked to Destiny. I think it's unfair that you haven't really addressed things with Z, but That's my opinion. That's weird to me. That's strange. But, okay. Maybe we go to MAGA?
Yeah.
Cool.
Any MAGA in the chat?
Well, Dean, it's not about the last few hours. It's about the last few times that you've come into my live and I've invited you and you denied the request. Are anybody in the request MAGA? Let's see. MAGA request. We got 183 people. There has to be MAGA in here.
I've been noticing MAGA recently has been scared to go on lives like this. Like what's going on right now is honestly really indefensible, and it's super un-American. And like the people that are leading the MAGA party are just the most un-American, unconstitutional, against the 200 plus years of tradition we've had in this country. And recently,
the majority of them also don't agree with those things. If you look at polling, the majority of them also don't agree with violence. The majority of them also want deportations of illegal immigrants. That is, the people who are up here are representative of the majority of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, but wait a minute. So the new world that we live in, it's a little more complex. It's the whole idea, and I didn't really want to jump to this, but actually being on tour with Charlie Kirk and his crew, I've been there and I've seen the debates. I've had a lot of conversations with students and everything. And you'll get these people, they'll come out with, you can see it on my page, you know, you'll see I have a young woman who will have a camouflage jacket on that looks like, oh my gosh, she's a Trump supporter for sure. And she'll go up and say, hey, Charlie, I know I've heard you talk about this a lot. What is a woman? I would really like to discuss that with you right now. And you're like, this is actually happening right now, and it happens a lot in these debates. Whether it's just I don't think it's a joking thing, because the idea now that gender is just a social construct, I'm pushing back to say, I'm not even going to follow the idea of gender anymore for myself.
Sure,
I think
these things are a little too far off topic, though. But we're more so just saying that, like, when it comes to a lot of like the edge issues, there is a big difference between liberals and leftists and progressives. There's a lot of diversity on the Democrat side. There's a lot of people who believe different things, and that's one of the beautiful things about the Democrats. But it's not. They are not. They have a lot of division, and this is one of the things that I like about Democrats, is that they have a lot of different beliefs. But when it comes to the Constitution, when it comes to following the law, these are things that we do, by and large, agree on. And this is why, when it comes to the protests, we are protesting somebody who is the leader of the nation and refusing to abide by those laws.
You know, if the Democratic Party is like, I've always been like, definitely intrigued by the policy. When you guys would talk about policy, be like, hey, you know what? Let me tell you why the Republican Party historically has not been great for the American people, because let's talk about policy and really helping out, you know, the lower class. And let me tell you what the Democrats have passed to really help people out. That's a powerful conversation, which a lot of people wouldn't really engage with because they don't find that like entertaining. Or, you know, it's just, it is what it is, right?
I do that on my show all the time. We pretty consistently go over, like, which side voted for more border security, which side was the one who has all of the records on deportations, which side is the one that's actually funding the veterans, which side is the one who's actually trying to help homeless people, which side is the one that's actually trying to do what is best for the country, and which side votes against all of those things every single time. I think that those are the more important issues, is what is it that the Democrat politicians stand for? Because when we go look at libs of TikTok, that's not it. Those people are not in line with Democratic politicians.
Yeah, you know, I think for me, it comes down to some of the core stuff that I vote for, because I do, looking at policy, you can't single out one side and say Donald Trump hates the military. And if you look at some of the stuff that he did for military, you look at how many new service members are enlisting, you look at all these key things, you can see that he does, you know, support military, and military gathers around, I think, the presence that he brings. Okay. Now you could say, hey, the Democrats passed a lot of stuff too that helped military. I'm sure we could have that argument. No problem. But this argument that one side hates the military, Donald Trump hates the military. This is the stuff that's like outrageous, that is like, it's nonsense. It really is. And with that stuff is just it's a big circle jerk that goes nowhere. But like I said, getting back to basic policy that helps out the middle class. I think the middle class have been lied to. Can you guys agree with me that the middle class, lower and middle class, have been lied to for a long time, that elect me and I'm going to change your life? Yes? Yes, on both sides. Have they both been lied to by the Republicans and Democrats?
On certain things, there have definitely been some lies given. Yes, there's no doubt about that, right? Everybody in politics does have their own self-preservation that they go against. But when you're talking about policy, for months, for close to a year and a half, 2 years, all we did was try and talk about policies that Kamala or Joe Biden, whoever it was running at the time, had and were putting in place for middle class and lower Americans. And Republicans didn't give a shit about what kind of policies were being discussed. All they cared about was lowering costs. That's all that Trump talked about, and immigration. It was the same two wild talking points. So we tried the policy conversation, and it's obvious that what mattered was vibes. It was Trump going on Joe Rogan and talking like a normal person, quote unquote, as normal as whatever you want to call normal is with Trump. It had nothing to do with policy, because anytime I've asked somebody who's voted for Trump, name one policy that you stand by that Donald Trump has either ran on or is now working on, whatever it is, not one policy can be given. Ideas, sure, but not policies. So having a policy conversation is let
me talk on that. I think that's another big lie. I think that the idea of policies direct everything, and without great policies, we're not going to see we're not going to see change. Okay, I mean, you in a couple different ways. You've seen border security ramped up due to executive order. Okay, at the southern border, Democrats said that it took a bipartisan border bill into the Langford bill to solve the problem. I don't agree that we have a terrible border policy. I think that as it stands, we could get people moved along a little bit faster to legal citizenship in this country. But I think that the backlog is so big that it's going to weigh more on our country that if we're helping out immigrants even more. So we have to look at cost. Okay, how that's going to affect the American people. So it is a struggle. The border's always been a problem for sure, 100%. And the Langford bill that everybody cries about, that you guys are like Donald Trump blocked, you're Jesus in the Democratic side. What's his name? Darn it, I'm forgetting his name right now. Hang on, Bernie Sanders voted against the bipartisan border bill. Okay, so that's a direct slap in the face. So if you bring up the bipartisan border bill, you honestly have to look at yourselves and go, you know what? What needed to happen is exactly what Trump did. And Biden could have thrown an executive order out there and said, you know what? Let's shut Trump up. Let's throw an executive order out there. Let's seal up the border, because they ran on there was no problem at the border until Biden said, we've brought forth the best, bipartisan border bill. Langford, wrote it up. We're going to sign it into law if everybody agrees with it. And they didn't agree with it. It didn't happen.
I'm sorry, there were two different times that they brought up the border bill. The Democrats were by far the majority who voted for it both times. So you mentioning a couple of people who didn't vote for it, that's one thing. But it was when we're talking about what it is that the Democrats stand for versus what it is the Republicans stand for, I think that we have a pretty clear division when one side is actually trying to fix the issues and the other side refuses to do it because they want to be able to fearmonger off of it.
No, that's not even close to true. I get, dude, you have to have a genuine conversation with me right now, please, okay? Honestly, look at Donald Trump, even in his first term, okay? Donald Trump put forth sanctions, okay, travel bans on 12 different countries. You guys called them, not you, I'm just saying the Democratic Party, they called him They said that he was racist. He hated Muslims. They call it the Muslim travel ban. Okay, these aren't even the overwhelmingly
Trump called it the Muslim travel ban.
No, listen.
Trump called it that. Trump called it that. He called it that. He was the one who named it that. We didn't start calling it that. He called it that first. He called it the Muslim ban.
Okay, so listen, the majority of the countries that are actually that have most of the Muslim religion, okay, those weren't even the countries that he put the bans on, okay, travel bans. So that was due to overstaying visas. It was immigration problems. If you really read into it, okay, that had to do with immigration as well. There was a big
It had to do with
part of it.
refugees who were coming into the country, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, look at people overstaying their visas. Okay, most of them are coming from those countries outside of the southern border.
Right. I'm not sure what that has to do with the Muslim ban, but we don't disagree with these things. The problem is that the mass deportations, when we're talking about deporting people who are working, who are following the law, who are here being good citizens, and they were doing it while they came in legally on their visas and then just overstayed them. Those are people that I think it makes sense to give some sort of amnesty to. If you want to have a conversation about like other people who are coming over the border illegally and never registering or anything, that's fine. But by far the majority of people who are here illegally, by far the majority of people who are here illegally are people who came in on visas and then just overstayed them. And those people, if they haven't committed any crimes or done anything wrong, those are the types of people that I want here.
Okay, well, you know what, and that's a good question. And the only thing I would say is, under the other, I would say, Democratic Jesus that you guys had, Bill Clinton, were under his immigration law, the 1996 immigration law. That so before this law came into place, if you overstayed your visa, you would pay a fine, your work visa. You just pay a fine, and then you could renew, okay, and all that. Figure all that out. So now, if you're a day over, okay, you have to look at it like you have to be out of the country for a year, okay. If you're over 365 days past, you're not eligible for entry for like 5 years and so on. It goes all the way up to 10 years if you push it. Some of these people have overstayed their visas past this point. They're not going to be eligible to come back in this country. You have older gentlemen that have been in this country 20, 30 years past their visa. So, and they've created an entire life here, okay? They're not criminals at all. But the law under the Democratic president of Bill Clinton put forth the law that Trump is following. These people can be removed and have an entire life here. So is that Trump's fault that he's following the law?
No, again, it's not Trump's fault. We're not talking about fault right now. Because I don't want to go back to like the consistency on following the laws.
Wait a minute, what? But you exactly
no, wait, no, it's not. No, it's not. Hold on, wait.
I turned it around on you, dude, completely.
Hold on, hold on. I haven't argued against this though. Again, like this is not a thing that I'm arguing against. I am saying that this is something that like a lot of people want. And it is the narrative that Trump is putting forward is that these are criminals, that they're rapists and murderers, and that these are some horrible people who are invading our country. They started to try to make it sound like it's other governments that are putting them up to it and getting them to come invade our country. Like, while I agree with everything that you're saying, and it makes sense, I'm not saying that Trump is wrong for attempting to deport those people, but I am saying that, yes, people like rightfully make sense when they say these are the types of people that we want in our country. Why would we deport them?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not following the law, and I'm not sure what the reason is why they didn't, keep up on their paperwork, or maybe just because they couldn't afford it, or they couldn't make time to do it. What it might be. I'm not calling every immigrant in this country. I believe this country was found on immigrants, okay? But we're living in a different world where we have planes flying into buildings and shit, and we have monuments because of it, okay? And the mass number of unalivings that have happened. We're living in a different world now where security, at our borders and stuff is a threat, okay? And I know that Donald Trump did campaign on immigrants, are doing horrendous crimes and all this stuff. He talked about it every damn campaign. It was like word salad for him constantly, okay? And no, I don't believe every immigrant in this country is a terrible person. I know a lot of immigrants, that have come from Mexico, and they're incredibly wonderful people, okay? But they have to abide by the law of the land, okay? If you don't like it, then we have to change the laws, okay? But going out and protesting against a thing called democracy that you guys supposedly stand for, okay, when the president-elect was voted in a democracy, okay, then it's literally a slap in your own face. Okay?
I'm sorry, but you're bringing up the laws as a point to say that there's nothing wrong with this. But can you repeat back to me what we were saying at the beginning, that this is the reason for the protest? Do you remember the reason that we gave for these?
Due process.
It's due process, that we want Trump to follow the law. We want him to abide by the law and the Constitution, the Supreme Court orders. That is the thing that we're arguing for. So when you bring up the law to justify what it is he's doing, in some cases, we would also like to use the law to justify what he's doing. And in a lot of cases, we can't.
But man, I'm telling you guys, can you show me a list of violent immigrants that have been removed from this country under Donald Trump and ICE? Can you show me, I don't know, can you show me 50 of them right now?
I can show you a list of people who don't have any sort of crimes, whether violent or otherwise, where it has 75% of the people who are in CCON have no crimes, no misdemeanors, no felonies, literally nothing. 75% of them.
Okay, well, you know what? And that's exactly it. In your party, you guys look to undermine, law and order, because what's still happening is they're still breaking laws in this country, all right? And we need more law and order in this country, okay? You look at what's going on, you look at the violent acts, okay?
Again, we're protesting for law and order.
But that's not what's going to bring more law and order in this country, okay? Due process does not threaten and bring fear to people that, hey, we need to abide by the rules.
Oh, no, not Menard. This is another troll, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, hello guys, how are you today?
What's up?
If he's a troll, I don't.
He's a troll.
Is he gonna just start slurring and shit?
Oh.
No, he's not going to slur or anything. He's somebody who follows a bunch of people on the panels and just makes everything very personal.
I wish Gene would come back. I mean, he was in here, then he left, then he came back on an alt account, and I invited him, and he kicked me from his server. I think that's telling. It's interesting to call someone a runner and then actively run. Don't lie about what? I need a snack.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, how are you guys?
For Trump?
Yeah.
What's up, Talk? Did you voted for Trump?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just wondering, Mercedes, did you work for Charlie Kirk?
No, I never worked for Charlie Kirk.
Oh, who was it?
Not me.
That's not a very good country accent. You can just talk normally.
I mean, I never worked for Charlie Kirk. You can ask him. You can message him if you want and ask him if I was ever a staff for the guy. But
I could have sworn I watched a TikTok live with you saying you used to work for Charlie Kirk and now you're a Democrat and all this.
I said I used to be in the same rooms as him. So most conservative influencers.
So what does that mean exactly?
It means unlike the Democratic Party, the right influencers actually work together.
Oh, because you all worship one God, right?
You can talk normally. You don't have to use the fake accent. Like, you can just talk like a normal person.
Tom.
Well, I mean, I figured since everybody else up here was being fake about their politics, I could too.
What do you think is fake about any of our
Well,
politics?
I think Mercedes is a fake Democrat. I mean, how are you in rooms with Charlie Cook just a few years ago, and now you're the star of the DNC on TikTok?
You realize, like, this is wild. This is literally what people are talking about when they're saying that this is, like, a problem when people do change their minds. If anybody on the Democrat side says this is why I left the left, the right is standing there with open... Hold on. Wait a second. Hold on a second. Just chill for a second. Okay. I was gonna say this is the problem, is that, like, if people on the right say, or on the left say this is why I left the left, there's a ton of people in MAGA and on the right who are standing there with their arms wide open. They're gonna put them on a tour and take them on all the shows, tell everybody to go follow them, and this person is gonna get a ton of love from the right. But when somebody on the left leaves the right and comes to the left, you got a ton of people who are constantly questioning their motives, questioning whether or not they're really on the left. When Mercedes has already had to, like, show who she voted for and show her voting ticket and everything, while people are denying that she ever voted. This is an insane amount of scrutiny that will never happen on the right, and they will continue to accept people over there who are going to feel welcomed, while anybody who changes their mind and comes over here has to put up with being challenged and questioned on everything that they do and say. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, I encourage people, like, if you want to check that shit, go ask Charlie Kirk, go talk to these people. Like, I came over here open and honest, and he's giving me a lot of credit. He said in 2020, I worked for Charlie Kirk. That's crazy. In 2020, I was doing other things, like battling, like homelessness and shit like that. I wasn't even in politics in 2020. It wasn't until I didn't get into politics, and the stories never changed. I didn't get into politics until January of last year. And I was on the conservative side from January of last year up until August of last year. So he's giving me a little bit too much credit saying 2020, considering I wasn't even in politics in 2020. That's giving me way too much credit. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, these people, they cry and then they have Trump as president, and then they're like, oh my gosh, we don't want Trump as president, but we don't want anyone voting over here. And it's like, you poked the holes in your own boat, and then it sunk, and then you wondered why it sunk, and then you cried. It's like, okay.
Yep, I watched a couple of videos today of them talking about the lady who runs Walmart, like, funding a lot of the protests, and then they're saying that she's not really a Democrat because she keeps putting out messaging on how we need to reach out to moderates. I don't think people understand that, like, one of the when you look at all the analysis of Kamala's campaign, the biggest problem with her campaign is that they weren't doing enough to actually reach out to moderates, or to signal that they had moderate positions within the campaign as well. And the moderate group is the biggest voting bloc right now. The moderates are by far the biggest voting bloc, and the Democrats just didn't do a good job at reaching out to them. And there's been a strategy shift where even, I'm blanking on her name, but there's a young black woman who's like gotten really popular recently. And even she said, like, we need to get one of the most moderate white boys out there to run, because this is what's going to help Democrats win.
I would personally say that I don't think you guys unfucked America. I think you just fucked it, like, even more.
Yeah, so what I was going to say before that person got brought up was that, I mean, essentially, these are the same people who are like, oh, Mercedes, and, like, calling us moderates and saying we suck. But then, if Gavin Newsom was the inevitable candidate in 2028, they'd just be, like, creaming all over that. And it's just like, it's wild to me that the type of people, they don't hold any logical consistency or moral consistency. There's none of it. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to vote for Gavin.
I disagree. Most of these people are hating on Gavin Newsom right now for being against the violence. They're upset that he, said that, was having people like Charlie Kirk on his show. And a lot of them really hate Gavin Newsom right now. While I think Gavin Newsom is doing and saying all the right things and is handling this thing well, there's still a bunch of people who are, it just seems like they don't align with Americans or like the Democrats right now.
To the chat, put W's in the chat if you like Gavin Newsom, or put L's in the chat if you don't like Gavin Newsom. L for L Gavin or W Gavin?
Let's see what you can find.
I for indifferent. Half and half. He's mid, but okay. So we're getting quite a few W's, and it's like, but that's the thing. Like to the people who have W's and say that here those of us on the panel are like the most evil things to ever exist, but then you'd vote for Gavin. That's wild to me.
Is there more MAGA?
You're right back. Give me just 2 seconds.
Hey guys. Hey, I'm not MAGA, but I actually do love what you guys are doing. I think it's really important that the left can actually come together right now. I'm going to be honest. I don't really care if Mercedes ever worked for Charlie Kirk. The reality is right now that we have families being torn apart by ICE. We have a side on the right that claimed they were okay with immigrants as long as they came here the right way. But that same side, they are happy to unify and be deafeningly silent as ICE raids courthouses and takes people away from their immigration appointments. They said it was about criminals, but they don't have anything to say about ICE raiding foster care facilities and schools and taking children. We have to stop infighting as Democrats and get around a unified message that human rights violations are going on and they are wrong. We can infight and have wings of our party when we win elections. Having segments of a party is a luxury reserved for a party that wins elections. I'll pause there. I don't want to rant too much.
Oh, you can go off, pop off King. I just followed you. Damn.
I agree with you to an extent. I think that the part of the problem, though, is that right now, because the Democrats didn't win the last election, there is kind of a fight for like the soul of the party, the identity of the party, because a lot of people who are very progressive believe that the problem with Kamala was that she wasn't progressive enough. People who are more moderate believe that she wasn't moderate enough. And so a lot of people are trying to like fight for the identity of the party. And I don't think that that'll ever exist. I think that infighting will always exist to some extent because we just have a lot more diversity on our side of the aisle. We have a lot more different ideologies and different values. And so we have different types of representation, and there will never be somebody that represents all of the people on the left. But I do think that like there are so many things that we do agree on, like the fact that Trump is breaking the law, that Trump is a fascist, that he needs to be stopped, that he is a threat to democracy, and that these are the parts that we should be aligning on. And when there's a bunch of us up here trying to argue these points and make the case for these things, yeah, it's still the left who's coming to fight us on it for some reason.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further. And I will say, if you're on the left and you think whatever perceived slight happened to you from another person on the left, or whatever person doesn't agree with your, one issue, or whatever person isn't quite as extreme or radical as you want them to be, or is a little too corporate, if that particular thing outweighs your value of human rights abuses in our country and things that we can change and stopping our democracy from crumbling, you need to reassess your priorities because you're a narcissist, okay? Those things are not more important. And we as Democrats need to stop being apologetic to these people and say with our whole chest, that doesn't matter right now as much as these other things. We have got to stop being spineless. It is absolutely ridiculous. We are a party that is well understood to be more educated than the other side. And we need to stand up and use that education like a bludgeon and start cutting these people down in conversations. The time for building bridges is over. We're not going to win Republican voters. If we were going to win those people, we would have won them in the last election. We thought that there were going to be a large segment of people that came over from that first Trump presidency and would not vote for him on this. If they didn't stop voting for him in the first one after the COVID debacle, they're not going to stop now. We're not going to win
I
this.
think we did have a lot of people come over, though. Like that's why he lost in 2020. And I do think that we're seeing a lot of people even today who are coming up saying that they regret their votes. And I've
I don't
been
think that's
doing
the
open panels on my shows, and I'm constantly every day talking to people who regret their votes. I think that it's becoming more and more of an issue, especially when it comes to the tariffs. There's a lot of Republicans who are upset about the tariffs and the economy right now. I think that this is kind of what happens, is recency bias, where during Trump's first term, people thought it was great until towards the end they all really were upset with their votes, and then they voted for Biden. And then after a couple of years, they all just kind of forgot about how bad and wild that was and how ridiculous everything was, and voted for him again. And now they're all starting to remember, oh yeah, this is why we didn't vote for him on the second try. And so yeah, I think there are people who are coming over.
Yeah, Tom, I don't think that's the case. I think that the left was charged up after the first presidency, and the record high voter turnout is what made that election happen. I think that MAGA has shown that they can still win these elections, and we didn't win enough because they won this one, right? And the reason they won this one is because our turnout went down. Our turnout went down. That's really, really, really bad when we understand what Donald Trump stood for. And it went down because we weren't energized about each other. We're not energized about our own party. We're not energized about our own side. And so we have to coalesce and create that energy somewhere. And that starts with finding a centric message that we can get behind. And again, these bridges that we're trying to build, I think that we will win more voters by energizing people and getting them excited in these conversations by showing who we are and standing tall with integrity and education.
What do you think the centric message is that we would all agree on? Because I think in the last election it was that Trump was bad. So what do you think this one was?
I'm 10 seconds out from finishing. Let me finish. I'll be happy to answer that. We have so many conversations with MAGA where their points do not align with reality and facts. And we need to be prepared in those conversations and come with facts and expose them for the uneducated, bad faith people they are. I'm sorry. Go ahead with your question.
I was asking, you keep saying that we need to come together on the things that we agree on. And I think that the things that we agreed on in the last election was that, like, Trump was a threat to democracy, that he was going to be bad for the country, but that didn't seem to be enough to actually get, I mean, it was close. Like it was a very, very close election. It was a very small margin that we lost by, and Trump didn't beat like Biden's numbers from the 2020 election. But I do think that when we're talking,
I don't mean necessarily that we have this big group of Democrats that don't agree with the things that you just said. What I'm saying is we need to focus our efforts on those things, right? We need to stop having 50 issues and have 5. Everybody can't have 50 issues. They can't all have their cake in these elections. We need to win elections and get people in office to get some that our government is going to transform tomorrow into this radically progressive paradise for everybody, and it's that or nothing, is idealistic, naive, and juvenile. And we have to understand how our systems work, how the mechanisms in those systems work, and we have to legislate ourselves forward. So hopefully, one day we can get to a place where we can have those degrees of progressivism. But we're not there. We're not close. We're not moving forward anymore slowly like progressives were mad about. We're moving backwards. And that's a much bigger problem.
I think that's a solid take. So I think it's unite together in order to defeat MAGA. Because I mean, like, you and I might disagree on like reaching across the aisle to them, but I feel like you and I could disagree on that and then still not attack each other and be like, yeah, let's get together a message in order to win elections regardless. And that's what I appreciate. What I appreciate about your energy. That's really cool.
Mercedes, you're exactly right. It's not about whether or not we agree on everything. It's about we all have the same goal. And so we kind of have to get over those grievances and just move forward. And the other thing I just want to reiterate is we have to not be spineless when we have these grievances. I'm sorry, I'm going to be real specific here. And I'm not trying to like cause drama in this, and I'm not trying to get you guys in a gotcha or anything. But the way like the first debacle with the tour was handled, this is a hot take. I'll get roasted on TikTok and in the chat for this. I know how TikTok is. When the issue is like interrupting a person of any race, color, whatever, and that's the issue, is that somebody got interrupted, I'm sorry. If it was a slight, it was a slight. But somebody getting interrupted is not more important than stopping Donald Trump. And what a narcissist you would have to be to try to railroad an entire movement over something so minor. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying I don't care if it happened, because there are 4-year-old children being ripped away from their mothers right now. And that's where my focus is.
You're so cool. Oh my God. I like you a lot. Holy based.
So there's somebody in the chat, Cindy. Oh my God, it wasn't about interruption. This is my point. I don't care what it was about because there's nothing it could possibly be about that is worse than what ICE is doing in this country right now, that is worse than Trump trying to take control of the National Guard from the states in a way that is unlawful, that is worse than having a rapist in office, that is worse from somebody who doesn't understand economic policy ruining our economy, that is worse than slashing Medicare from thousands of people that need it, that is worse than the fact that my friends 4-year-old daughter can no longer get the medicine she needs because they cut that research drug from Duke University and she is going to be paralyzed in 4 years. None of those things are worse.
This is what we need. I just wow. Like you're just cooking. You're just fucking cooking. I like you, man. You are welcome also to join our Unfuck America supporters Discord if you want to stay updated with what we're doing. I don't know, holy shit. I also, damn, holy based. So refreshing.
Yeah, I'm in the Discord. There's nothing going on in the Discord.
Yeah,
if I can give you guys some feedback, build a community, right? Give people that have this frustration and energy somewhere. And I know that's what you guys are doing, by the way. It's starting, but
yeah. Now, so this is our first live, and now we're gonna start encouraging people to get this was the at the end of this, we're gonna encourage the viewers. So if you guys are in the chat and you do support us, we do have a Discord that we'd love everyone to join. If you support. So. But yeah, this was the grand opening to that. Sorry.
Well, again, I don't want to eat up time here. I know you guys have other guests. Thank you for giving me a platform to kind of rant and vent some frustrations. I support what you guys are doing. It's important work. Certainly, if there's anything I can do to support you guys, yeah, just DM me. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you. You're a god, man. Bro, he was so cool.
I just spilled my chips everywhere. I'm so.
I mean, I see a bunch of people from MAGA in the chat saying that get over it, Trump won. I mean, if you guys think that you have a point to make, you should request up. Let us know in chat that you're here to defend Trump and request up. But I haven't seen any of you guys get over the fact that Biden won in 2020. You guys spent 4 years refusing to get over it, and every time I hear Trump talk, he's talking about Biden again. So I don't think Trump or any of you guys have gotten over Biden's win in 2020. So that you're telling us just a couple months after Trump won that we're supposed to get over it. We're not denying the election. I mean, we're not over here denying any of these things like y'all did. So we're happy to talk about something. If you guys think that we're wrong, you should request up. Let us know in the chat that you're requesting up to talk about Trump, and we'll pull you up. Yeah, I think a lot of people keep saying we need to focus on unity, or we need to focus on pulling people over. We need to focus on our own party. We can multitask. We're capable of doing a lot of different things at once. We can have some people who are reaching across the aisle. We can have some people who are just working on rallying the base. We can have people who are working on unity. We're capable of doing a lot of things at once, and I think that the main goal is to just get as many people to vote for Democrats as possible. What's up, Vance? Did you or wait, is there somebody else too? Or is it Reese and Vance?
My name
Reese,
is
did
Vance
you vote for
Dudley.
Maybe.
All right.
That sounds like a troll, but maybe Reese didn't mean to request. It seems like it.
Reese, do you know that you're teacupped right now? Reese, do you know that you're on the screen?
Because I think sometimes they think that they're leaving if they just like scroll out.
Vance, did you vote for Trump?
Yes, I'd like to say something. My son's in the chat too. Could we bring him up?
Well, we're just kind of doing like the one person at a time thing, so.
Damn. It'd be nice if you let him up because he's a lawyer.
What's his name?
His name's Vernon.
Tell him to request up.
All right, sorry, 1 second.
Hey, Vernon. Okay, Vernon Dudley and Vance Dudley.
Hey, how y'all doing this evening?
Good.
What's up, Vernon? Did you vote for Trump?
Yeah, I did.
And you're a lawyer?
I am.
What type of law do you practice?
Civil.
Nice. All right. Why did you vote for Trump?
Well, so let me preface whenever I go to explain my reasoning. I just want to say that this situation felt like it was more of a hands tied kind of thing. But, I did because I just, sort of the fruition we're seeing economically right now is sort of the reason why I did. And sort of just kind of the America First agenda, really. Not really any sort of racism towards anyone like people think Trump voters are, or, I'm not even like a MAGA diehard or anything, but I did vote for Trump. So sort of my stance on
When
it.
you say the
more just
when you say the situation that we're seeing right now, what is the situation that right now makes you feel comfortable with your vote?
Well, I mean, I see gas.
I can answer this one.
Or if my son wants to answer, he can answer for me then.
Oh, you're both each other's sons. So you're his son and he's your son. That's
I'm
interesting.
sorry.
Okay.
Well, listen, I had some ibuprofen for a headache earlier, and to be a little unprofessional, I had a couple of drinks. I'm off for work tomorrow, so I apologize. I'm a little informal. My father.
Go ahead, Vance.
Yeah. So, reason I voted for Trump is because I'm tired of all this progressivism, to be honest with you. I want to see more conservative values. I'm a Christian. I want to see some more conservative values in society. And, yeah.
Do you work, Vance? Let me ask you, do you have a job?
Nope. Not right now.
All right. I gotta ask Vernon, I guess. I assume you have a job since you are a lawyer, right? I mean, even anyway, Vance, you can answer this question.
DoorDash and Uber. I do DoorDash and Uber. That's about it.
All right, let me just give you the principle then, I guess. Probably easier that way. So, 40-hour work weeks are a really good example of progressive legislation that has, been passed in this country. And a lot of the things that you enjoy are because of progressive values. So, are you saying that you wouldn't want...
What progressive values are so good that you think?
Well, I like to work 40 hours a week. I don't want to work more than that. That's definitely one that I can give you. I think that there's a lot of freedoms that people have, especially women, for instance. Those were progressive values that were pushed forward to give them more rights than what they had 50 years ago. So,
all right. Well, that's a good.
Do you not support that?
That's a good starting point.
Let me tell you something. Some of the richest people in the world, and just about all of them, would work more than 40 hours to get where they are now, where they don't have to work any hours or hardly any hours at all.
That's a personal choice for them. That's not not something that's
if you look at the correlate of successful people and people who have money, you see that is a correlate. So I mean, you can't really just solve the problem by saying, "Hey, let's work less hours." Because clearly you see the correlate, and it's you're going to have to bust your ass some more, buddy.
Well, you can, because the other progressive values that you would be fighting for are higher pay. I mean, if you just look at the way that the wage gap is in this country, it's pretty clear that
then what's going to be the volume of those people working those high-paying jobs then? Is it going to be a very select few, or is it just going to be everybody willy-nilly just gets these high-paying jobs out of nowhere?
No, I don't think you need to. I think there would be a rise in pay for the higher ups that are running companies, quote unquote, but it doesn't need to be as vast as it is now. even just keeping up with inflation over the last couple decades,
Well,
the
I see what you're saying
minimum
about the
wage would be
rate.
higher than what it is right now. Just
I see what you're
starting
saying about the
there,
rate and speed of it, but your end result is still going to be the same, whether it's fast or slow. I
Well,
mean,
what's the
it's
end
just going
result
to be
that
the
you
same.
think that I'm thinking?
Well,
I mean,
I'd like
eventually.
to hop in there.
Go ahead, Papa. That's Papa Vance right there. So
I'm waiting for Papa
You
to
guys are
answer.
ridiculous.
let him educate you real
Well,
quick.
this is the thing.
Guys, I can't.
You can have
I can't. I've been trying to hold it in.
what? I'm his papa.
I'm so done.
I mean, sorry. I just felt comfortable enough to call him Papa. That's what I call him sometimes.
Yeah,
He's getting
I'm
older.
listening,
So.
Vance. I'm listening.
No, it's good. I love it,
Well,
guys. You guys are, even if, I don't know if y'all are trolling. I don't know who you are.
No. It's really my dad. We like to.
I'm
I'm
Papa
just
Vance.
gonna say,
deep
like,
discussions and.
regardless,
Now, let me talk,
you guys are
please.
really great. You guys are great.
Well, here's
Thanks,
the thing. Cmagz, you talked about the progressive values and all that, and I could say that, beginning of feminism is good. But do you think that it's bad at all?
Feminism?
Like what possible thing do they need else? It just seems like it's turned destructive, but I can agree that at the beginning it was a good thing.
What's possible? I'm sorry. What was your question?
You said, like, you brought up the feminist movement, and I can agree that the beginning of it was good. Now, why today it just seems radical.
What's radical?
It seems that it's just fragmenting the Cmagzes. Like, men don't like women, women don't like men. It's sad to see.
You don't like women?
Of course I do, but it's making them think, like, it's making women like misandrist and men misogynist.
Well, I think that's just because of what has been perpetuated over the last however many years, right? It's almost similar to what racism is, in a way that it's just inherent in our society, unfortunately, and it's just there, and we've just got to break out of that somehow, and progressive values will get us there. So when it comes to, I just want to make sure we focus on the man and woman thing.
In my perspective, it's making it worse. I mean, when I come up here and I see these little, panels, whatnot, and I see I choose the bear over the man, that seems a little weird to me. That women even have this notion that all men are, like, out to get them. I've never really. I know they're.
Yeah, I think. Hold on, Vance. I think that's just a slight mischaracterization, and at no fault to you, right? So, I totally understand what you're saying, and believe me, there was a point in time when I didn't understand what the hell they were talking about either. I mean, it's almost logical if you just kind of look at it from a blank state, but when you start to really dig down a little bit deeper, the big reason is unpredictability, right? You can know, like, if you throw somebody into a bear pit, you're pretty sure what's going to happen. But with a man, they could appear to be inviting and good-hearted and not like dangerous in any way, shape, or form, but they can turn on you instantly, and that's the difference. That's the difference. It has nothing to do with the blank slate of man versus bear. It has to do with the unpredictability. That's the biggest thing. That's what drives home the whole idea of women looking at men and just being like, oh, you know what?
Okay, well,
I don't trust them. Does that make sense?
Well, tell me, let's start there. How much?
Legislative way or like physically?
Any way that's oppressive, that's going to traumatize them.
Okay, well, I think if you want to say that 57% of the country voted for Trump, I would say 57% of the country wants to be repressive to women at the very least when it comes to legislation, because obviously they're voting.
You think that's a healthy way of thinking, man?
What do you mean by that? I mean, you asked me what percentage of males do I think would want to do harm onto a woman, and I asked. Go ahead.
of the population that voted for him.
Pass legislation that doesn't allow them control of their body. That's still harm. That's not physical harm, but that's still harm. I did not
But
say
what if it's
raping.
going against their Christian values?
It's still the percentage. I still answered the question. What we can talk about Christian values. Hold on. Don't jump in. Of men in the country do I think would want to harm women? And I wanted to just clarify, did you mean physically or did you mean other side about the graping or the hurting or whatever you want to call it? I think because men are unpredictable, I don't know what the number is. It could be 0%, it could be 1%, it could be 90%. So that's the hard part. Again, going back to the whole unpredictability thing, that's the core point of this.
Well, the thing is, you're implying abortion, right? Because they want control of the women's bodies over abortion, right?
Sure.
Okay. So why would we just tell them to not be so sexually liberated? Why wouldn't that be a better, like, because I don't see it as a
We can tell
need.
them, sure, but they can make their own choice.
Propagated that it's a good thing if they, have as much sex as possible. I don't see that as being a positive at all.
Okay,
for
but
men or women. For men or women.
So
just having promiscuous sex.
And trust me, I believe that there should be, from a personal standpoint, self-control, right? I definitely understand that 100%, but it's still a personal choice.
Yeah, when it comes to the bear statistic and everything, I just 81% of women have experienced sexual harassment in this country, and then 41% have been essayed by a man in some way. So,
but this is where it gets contradictory from my point of view. Because it's like, okay, so you view all men as being
no, I don't think it's all men.
Real quick.
I don't think, wait, hold on.
Don't cut off my daddy now.
Hold on.
He's trying to speak, and you was cutting him off, man.
I just real quick want to make this.
Don't mischaracterize, Vance. Don't
You're
mischaracterize.
mischaracterizing it. Hold on. When you say, I do not think all men.
Okay,
So
all right.
that's what I'm saying. You can't say, I think all men when I'm not. I've never said all men. Maybe you've been on a panel before who said all men are bad. I personally don't think that way. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, well, just the slogan, it's all men.
Yes, that's bad.
But look at this contradiction that I see on the left that they propagate. It's like you think, well, not you specifically, but a lot of left people think that all men are like causing them harm, so that's why they choose the bear, right? But then we also propagate sexual liberation, and I'm not saying that men should have the right to do any weird stuff like that. Don't misconstrue this, but it seems like a contradiction. Like, you tell them to go be sexually liberated, and that should be like a virtuous
that's
thing.
consensual.
Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, but it's like a virtuous thing, and then all of a sudden you hate all men, because I'm sure over the like if you have a lot of sex with men, you'll probably get traumatized in some psychological sense, because you will. I mean, if you just have promiscuous sex, you're going to get psychologically damaged in my eyes.
Okay.
So, and then you might, in retrospect, looking back at it, you might think, this guy's a bad guy, whatever. And then you start to hate men, or dislike men. But at the same time, you push out this sexual liberation. Do you see where I'm coming from?
I mean, I'm just gonna. I mean, this is sounding like a you issue, but no. What I'd like to say is, women in this country have the right to express themselves in whatever way they would like. I think all relationships should be consensual, and I don't think it's all men, or we can just hate men. I think multiple things can be true at once. You don't have to hate all men. Women should have the right to, their autonomy, whatever they want to go out and do. And everything should be consent. All that should be a thing. So I don't.
Okay, but do you think it's a virtuous thing for them to experiment in that sector of life? Just curious. Do you think it's a virtuous thing for them to?
That's a little bit
Well,
too
that
broad
comes
of a
to
question
religion, right?
because when you say to experiment or something, like obviously to experiment to some extent, no, I don't think anybody thinks that like having sex in any way is ever going to be virtuous, whether or not. But what they keep trying to explain is that they just believe that people should have the rights to do these things, and even if they think that there's like a line that they would draw where it gets to be a little overboard or even have moral issues or cultural issues, they would still say that those people should still have the right to do it anyways.
Yeah, one of the main things.
Wait,
that,
like
that
I guess.
Well,
I
I mean,
guess
do you
like,
disagree with that though? I'm trying to, because they do keep saying this, and I feel like it's
yeah, my confusion is
kind of missed. Do you
yeah, like,
disagree with the fact that they would have the right, Vance?
Of course, you have the right to do that, but I mean, at the same time, should it be seen as a positive? No.
yeah, but
No, again, no. I don't think anybody agrees with that.
But like, okay, so like someone.
But a lot of people do.
That's the thing, is someone is allowed to see it as a positive. If someone is out there and they got like a body count of like 20 or something and they're happy about that, I think they should be able to be happy about that. Like if they're not upset with themselves, like and they're confident in themselves, I think that's a beautiful thing. Like I don't like, it doesn't have to be, maybe you have a different woman who she wants, she, after a third person, maybe she has some conviction or whatever, and she can go down whatever path she wants. But just because someone has a high body count, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily like not like if they're secure with themselves, more power to them.
Yeah, and I think that needs to be just remembered, that that's the focus, right, Vance? Like, we're talking about kind of like the politics of stuff. There is, of course, a personal decision. Right? You like chocolate, I like vanilla, whatever it might be. But there is also a level of what is the right that people should have. And I think this whole point started with abortion. And sorry, I don't know if that's one of the words I'm allowed to say in here or not, but the whole idea is a woman should have her right to choose, in my opinion, right? And I know that you're coming at it from a religious standpoint, which is a whole can of worms in itself. But do you agree or do you disagree that a woman should have the bodily autonomy to do what she chooses?
Yes, of course, but I think that the sexual liberation stuff, it actually makes them not find their true soulmate. So everyone's a lot more lonely nowadays. I mean, the substance abuse for most Cmagz has gone up in the past decade. I mean, people are more alone than ever, and I think I is a bad thing.
Well, if it's not, that's the thing, is like, this is the beauty of America, right? If the trad wives want to do their thing, that's fine. If like purity culture wants to exist, oh my God, I love that for them. And then if someone wants to go out and be a little baddie with, her body count, and she loves that for herself, like that's the beauty of America.
But is that what you want to send out to people as a good message for people to just go and do?
Yeah, like to the young kids, is that a good thing? I mean, because you're not taking
promulgate.
When it comes to the messaging, I don't necessarily, like, are you talking about like in music, like in pop culture, or like are you talking about like on TV? Or
I'm talking about because that is what is being influenced.
Yeah, and I think that's on the
parents. Do you
parent.
think that that's good?
I think it's on the parent. So like when we want to live in a free country, that means that everyone in whatever corner of this country that they live in gets to express themselves 100% in that free way, as long as it is not harming someone else. So if for example, I am against like adult cartoons to this day, because I was raised thinking they were bad. I wasn't raised with movies. I wasn't raised with like TV and all that stuff. That's how I was raised, and now I have a subset of beliefs that reflect that because of how my parents raised me. Like, if you don't want your children to be subjected to that, then don't subject them to that. But you don't get to control someone else and how they raise their kids.
Well, okay. Well, it just seems like you're kind of just dipping your toes in two puddles here. So, I'm
advocating for freedom in this country.
You can't say one is wrong and one is right. You have to be.
I'm not saying one is wrong and one is right. I'm saying they all fall under your freedom.
The thing is, you're saying they're all equally right.
No, I'm saying
no. She's not talking about right and wrong whatsoever. She's saying that they have the right to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, she's also seeing them as equal. Like if you
No,
want to be
it's not-
pure,
it's
you
She's
can do
not.
that.
She's
It's not
not.
that
She
way.
hasn't.
Let me
I'm
give you a
sorry.
good example.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Wait. Because we keep
Okay, go,
we
Tom.
keep like shifting the conversation a little bit.
Well,
The
real quick,
problem
I
is
just
that
want to
like
say
you
one more
guys.
thing.
No. Hold on, Vince. Hold on 1 second. We keep like shifting the conversation where they're trying to say that they're talking about rights because this is a panel about like the voting for Republican or Democrat, and so we're having more policy based conversations. You guys keep talking about what you see feminists out there saying, but like these people here on the panel agree with feminist principles, and they're just trying to like explain why they do, but they can't argue other people's positions. So they're telling you this is how they feel. They feel like people should have the rights to do these things. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it themselves, but that they should, like the principle that they're trying to push is just freedom, they're not talking about like a moral principle.
Right.
What
Let me give you a
here's
good
the thing.
analogy, Vance, if I can, real quick. I believe that if you've been listening to so far, I said this earlier, if you want to burn the American flag, that is a freedom that you are protected by under the First Amendment. But I don't agree with that. I don't agree with somebody that's burning the flag. I think it's, it does signify un-American and whatever surrounds that. But I support their ability and their freedom to do it. Do you understand that? Does that make sense to you?
No,
But I want to ask you this question: Do you
Do you understand that though? Does that make sense? Just answer that question first.
Yes,
I'll answer your
100%.
question.
That is so
Okay, got it.
remedial.
Go ahead, Vern.
It's so remedial. We understand.
Go
But
ahead,
But are you talking about in the regards of their privacy, or like in the regards of like in general, where in the public and what is going to be influenced as a whole? Because that is what is being influenced.
Are you referring
He's
to
talking
the
about
burning
the
of
law.
flag in public?
Well, here's the thing that Mercedes was saying. She basically said it should be okay for them to do whatever they want, but we're taking a hard stance. One's bad, one's good, and society should be instructed that way. And she also said something else, that if you're not harming anybody, then it's all right. Every small action that you do, the smallest of small actions, will have a butterfly effect on everyone around you. It doesn't matter how small it is. I mean, you could literally come up with the dumbest, smallest. Yes, it will have some type of impact, especially with these sort of messages that that it's okay to do this. It's all right to do that. I mean, so they're equally virtuous as the other one in your eyes. And I don't see that as being conducive for a
How
good
about this?
society.
I think all of us here would agree that if people are having relationships to a point to where there's some sort of psychological damage, to where they're being unsafe, to where they could have some sort of diseases or anything like that, or if it's like changing them to some degree, I think all of us would agree that there should be lines drawn and that nobody should go past that point. I think we would all be on board with that.
If I could demonstrate to you that couples that get together that are virgins when they marry, they stay together a lot longer. They don't divorce. The divorce rate is like less than 2%. And then your way, or y'all's way, divorce is a lot higher and it has worse effects for society. You would still say that they should have the freedom to do it, right?
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard the term correlation doesn't equal causation, but what you're doing is you're drawing two things that happen to correlate with one another, whereas we would look deeper to see what the real reason is, what the cause is for this. And it seems like the cause is unlikely holding very strongly to their Christian values, and then they're also somebody who is more likely to believe in divorce. So it seems like the Christian principle is the difference there, and not whether or not they had sex.
I don't
But
think
even
just,
just secular.
I don't think just Christians get married to not get divorced, and I don't think just only Christians believe in not getting divorced. I would say secular people do too. I mean, as part of the oath you take is till death do us part. I mean, the idea is to not get divorced,
But they don't believe it's a sin to get divorced. They don't think that it's immoral to get a divorce, whereas Christians do. So there's a line that's being drawn that's very different.
Would it be immoral if it has a lot worse effects on the kid in your eyes?
To an extent, but you also have to take into consideration the effects that it would have on the couple as well, because if they're in a relationship that's going to cause them harm, it may be a lot more harmful for somebody to stay in a relationship that they don't want to be in than it'll be harmful to children to have to go to 2 Christmases.
Well, that's when they need to start seeking some sort of counseling or some sort of help as a married couple if they really care about that child and keeping the family, together enough. I mean, that would.
Again, I will 100% agree with you guys that, like, I think that if you're capable of staying together, especially if you have kids, it is like best to try to make it work and try to have 2 parents in the household. Kids are generally better off by having more helpers, more people raising them. It's always going to be beneficial to have 2 parents. And so I will 100% agree that is like the best thing for the kids.
Well, but what's the point of even getting married if you're not going to even try and seek that help and like really try and keep that family together? I mean, that just seems.
Yeah, I think they should. I think they should. I think, as I said, if they're capable of staying together, I think they should. I think that's important.
What I'm saying is if anybody's capable of getting married, they're capable of getting the help to stay together. They're capable of
not necessarily. No, that's not necessarily true.
I think we always.
No, I think there. Of course, there's going to be outliers, but I'm saying as a majority and as a whole, if you're being realistic, people could get the help that they need, and they could find or seek the source to which that is, to where they can
maybe. Let's let Mercedes go real quick.
I mean, I was just going to say, like, I think we all pretty much generally agree, but it just comes down to like these conversations are great, but I don't like. Are you advocating for some kind of legislation to
propaganda
stop people's freedom, or like what is it? I guess like what is the outcome that you're hoping for?
I'm not trying.
Yeah, again, this is a conversation about like the legislation more so than the cultural aspects.
Yeah,
it's more so cultural. Yeah, it's more. We're not trying to take away people's freedom because as Christians, we're not even trying to force our beliefs down people's throats. Although we would like, we would love for y'all to be believers, and we'd love for y'all to be, come to God. But, we would just like there to be an undertone culturally, like even through propaganda, of just keeping families together and having that, traditional is a bad word to use. It has bad connotation nowadays, but keeping those traditional things together because they have statistically better inclinations and better statistical factors showing that the families are better. And that is.
Yeah, again, we'll agree with a lot of the principled positions, but again, we're trying to bring it back to like this is a panel about like voting, Republican, Democrat. We're trying to have conversations about legislation. And so while we might agree with you on the principles, we're more so. Yeah, go ahead, Mercedes.
At the end of the day, I think that like that's fine and everything. If you want the propaganda to change, or if you want like pro-Christian propaganda, go out there and like, I don't know, put some money together and run some TV ads. Like that's the thing. The beauty of this country is that you have the ability to do that. I'm sorry that propaganda that you might not like, if you want to call it that, is happening to outweigh. I think Christians maybe they need to get together and try something for themselves. Like that's what I'm saying.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to go after Cmagz.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I just think it's one of those things that like we can agree. We're going to have cultural differences because that's a thing.
Okay, well, no, and I see what you're saying, ma'am, and and we do have the freedom. That is the beauty of America, and I love that very much. That's why I love America. But what is the undertone of today's culture now? What would you say it is? Is it more inclined towards a traditional family, or is it more inclined towards? Is it more inclined to the individual? Self-redemption and self. It's all about self. It's all about everybody and self-gratification, quick gratification, and there's no
delayed gratification.
Yeah, delayed gratification.
I think there's a large variety though, because a lot like most of the things that you guys are talking about, these are people who are like just getting out of high school, getting into college. They're starting to like get a little bit of freedom and start to experiment, and that's like pretty normal for people at younger ages. But I think once people get older, they get very serious about like wanting to start a family, wanting to find somebody that they're going to spend the rest of their lives with, wanting to settle down. And I think that these are just things that come with age, because even for my family who went to seminary, who went to Christian colleges, and there were still very similar cultures there because they're just getting out and starting to experiment. But I don't see this thing where people are being like Yaz queened for having like a 100 body count. I don't see this thing where people are like, yes, thank God that woman slept with 200 men. Like I don't see this culture existing.
Well, it does.
Look at any award show, buddy. Look at the performances on award shows where women are slapping their downstairs mix-ups, part of their performance and their dance, and shaking their freaking
Yeah, you just see it in the
Sure, that's not the
symbolism
same
everywhere.
as actually engaging in a sexual act.
Well, but the
Okay, but if
symbolism,
live,
the symbolism
live national
everywhere.
television is gonna show that to people where kids are definitely watching, of course, then things that are going to be the sub media that people are still consuming on an even higher rate, more frequently, where you can watch people being fully naked very casually, and where kids will also be able to see that.
Yeah, but I think that that's just like an entertainment aspect. That's something that's always been there. That's
But
not
I'm
something
saying
that came with
those are the
feminism
most
because
influential
well, hold on,
people.
hold on.
I'm saying that's
Hold
the
on, because I'm saying that this is
culture.
I hold on. I'm saying that this isn't a new thing. That this isn't something that just popped up all of a sudden. Because even back when we would look at like much more conservative cultures, we still had very popular artists out there like Elvis, like the Beatles, like Michael Jackson, like all of these rock bands who had very sexually explicit lyrics and were doing very sexually explicit things on stages. Like this has been a very like constant norm throughout my life, my parents' life, their parents' lives.
I'm right there with you, buddy. But I'm saying Republicans, at least, if we're picking, and I don't even want to pick sides because it's not even about sides, but if you're talking about Republicans versus Democratic vote, Republicans tend to, be geared towards the traditional values that are kind of synonymous with being Christian.
If you voted for Donald Trump, a guy who like brags about sleeping around, has had tons of girlfriends, somebody who
I don't believe he's a Christian at all. I'm saying though that the Republican Party as a whole seems to have people more populated that are more inclined towards things that are synonymous with the Bible and have those sort of values. And I'm not saying all those people that say that are Christians that are, because there are people that use that label as a term of just endearment for other people to view them in some sort of way. And I think it's disingenuous and everything else like that.
One of my biggest problems with the left is, and there's problems with both sides, obviously, but the left is, as technology has advanced, we've made such big advancements in technology in our culture, it's almost like the social norms had to advance at that same rate, and that was considered a virtuous thing. But tradition are a set of experiments that worked, right? And they worked for generations and generations and generations. So why I think that we should embrace traditional values is because it's something that's innate to the human condition, that these are going to be best for a society. And that's pretty much it.
I mean, again, I think we're going to agree on like a lot of the principled positions of these, but we're going to have them for more utilitarian reasons. We're going to believe in the things that have a lot of utility to them, like kids growing up in two-parent households will have better outcomes. We'll agree that like people who are sloppy and sleep around in dangerous ways is a huge negative. But yeah, we're like I don't know if we would take like the Andrew Wilson direction of like shaming them and screaming and yelling at them, but we might talk to them about the utility of like being safe, and that is something that Democrats have pushed for, is making sure that from young ages people understand that how to have safe sex and how to be careful, and that there are tons of stats out there about two-parent households being beneficial, and that like how divorce harms kids. They talk a lot about the psychology of how things harm people, and I think that they do talk a lot about these things.
Yeah, and I think that we're forgetting how much, like, moving forward and the progress has helped, just like with human rights in general. So when we talk about traditional, values in a way, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think a lot of people don't understand that the traditional values that they're advocating for nowadays is like still under the blanket of the what feminism has ushered in. So like I would argue that you guys don't think that it's okay to like beat your wife, but 50, 60, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, that was completely, for most of like American history, that was completely normal to do so, and that would have been a traditional marriage in which someone was suffering. So it's like I get what you guys are saying. At the same time, I think you're building like this idealistic traditionalism that isn't the past, but is also not where we're at now. But the only reason
what you're doing is you're looking at the people who gave a bad sour taste in the mouth.
It's a very common thing. Like we can't even just say the bad people. It was extremely common for women to be beat by their husbands through pretty much all of history. That's not
That's
Okay, and I'm not saying that that's okay, and so I'm not, and they have to answer for that, between them and God.
Yeah, it's just
So
tradition has
you
to
can't,
evolve.
you can't look at imperfect people to make your belief off of something that actually is well intentioned and good.
Well, I can
You
I
can't
can look
blame
at
the
the
sinner.
majority because I don't think past traditional relationships took in the consideration of the wife versus like now the trad wife movement does that. So I think like, for example, someone who goes into a traditional marriage nowadays, the woman is so much more protected because of progress. So that's like see, like I get what you're saying. Like nowadays, if you guys wanted these traditional marriages, where the woman still, she's able to get divorced if she needs to. We have like the no fault divorce, things like that. I think that's important, but those only came to fruition because of Democrats. Or
I
like,
don't really actually see how they're. I don't really see how they're more protected when they've actually just thrown themselves more into the lion's den, trying to be more in a man's position and be more around men. And like, I mean, I don't. I mean, you're just putting yourself around the very people that you're saying you're so scared of, and
it's
everything else. That doesn't really make sense,
it's
to be
because
honest.
they can leave their husbands if they're getting beat. Like it's not, like marital
Well, I'm
rape
talking
is
about as a
not
whole. I mean,
protected.
just with. I'm talking about if you're saying that men are beating women and everything else like that, and like
Talking about
that's the.
like in the past, like statistically, it's yeah. Like if you go, for example, if you were to go to another country right now, very very traditionalistic country, some of them in the Middle East, where it's very normal to just beat your wife. That's again, they're stuck in the past in the same way we were stuck in the past, where we normalized that, where we dehumanized a woman within the relationship.
Yeah, well, you're taking one aspect of the entirety of something that actually is good, and of course, I'm not saying it's a good approach. I think that's not something like men shouldn't be beating their wives, of course. So, I mean, obviously, we don't want to instill something like that. And say if we were trying to change the propaganda of things on a mass scale, we're not going to say beat your wives. We would obviously instill the opposite. So, I mean, you can't really look at that and say, oh, well, that's going to be the thing that determines the entire belief or entire thing of traditionalism. Because, I mean, that's actually just kind of futile.
Well, it is. I mean, it has been what has determined it. So, I mean, like for centuries now, that has been the pillar of traditional marriages. Just recently, in the past, like 50 years, has that changed. So, yeah, I think we could fairly assume that when we talk about these traditional marriages, and we look at history of time versus 50 years now, we can make a fair assumption of what the outcome would have been. Like if that's what the outcome was, then yeah, of course. Again, if you want to push for traditional marriages in the sense of like the new age, like a new age kind of traditionalism, that's fine. But I also think you got to give credit to progressives to get us to the point where we are now, so you can have a traditional marriage in which both people are viewed equally under the law.
Well, not even just that. Like, it's still very common within churches to stigmatize people who get divorced. And I remember when I was in church when I was younger, two people had gotten divorced, and it was a big problem. I think the guy got kicked off the deacon's list, and him and his wife didn't really talk about the reasons. They just said that it wasn't working out. But I was friends with their kids, and their kids started talking about the fact that the dad was abusive and that it became a problem. And they're not going to go around telling everybody that. They're not going to go around telling everybody that what was actually going on and why they got divorced. Yet they still got stigmatized all the same for getting the divorce. And this is the problem, is that like we can't assume what it is that people are going through. And the culture that people want is to have this high, like really large stigma on people who are going to get divorced, when I think you guys would even agree that if it is abusive and that the person isn't stopping, that they've tried going to therapy and tried going to couples counseling, that if it still doesn't stop, that woman should leave that relationship. Yet if she doesn't come out and tell everybody what she had to go through, then she's still going to get stigmatized for it. So we're trying to create a culture where that just wouldn't happen. And if people feel that they need to leave the relationship, we're just going to accept that they needed to leave it.
Okay, well, I have two responses to that. So, true Christians, of course, well, they're going to probably, if a person's a deacon of a church getting a divorce, I mean, I think as a church body, and if he's supposed to be that position in the church, I mean, I don't think he really should be the deacon at that point. I mean, I think he should step down. still be a body of the church and not exiled for it, and certainly not judged for it. But I think he should be assessed like a brother in Christ and held accountable, because it is seen as a sin, unless there are forgivable reasons also in the Bible for divorce. And you can go and read it. Adultery is one of them. But I do believe that, what you're saying about, if someone really cannot get some help, and of course, people want to be discreet about it and everything. But if someone truly cannot get help, I mean, again, like I said, between God and everything, but I still don't think that people are just going to give it that much effort anyway. I think people are just going to look for the easy cop-out, which is my problem. I just don't think that people are really trying hard enough to actually pursue the marriage that they signed up for.
What makes you think that though? Because I don't see that anywhere. I think that divorce is one of the. I think just real quick. I think that we hear very consistently from both men and women that divorce is one of the worst things that somebody could possibly go through, especially when it comes to having to deal with the lawyers. It has to deal with the kids and the way that they'll blame themselves. It has to do with the way that the other person all of a sudden becomes an enemy overnight, to where you had loved each other for a very long time, and now you have to fight each other in courts for things. It's like divorce is not something that people look forward to. It's not something that they want to do, and you guys are making it sound like it's something that's being praised, or that's that isn't that it's something that people want to do, and I just don't see this anywhere.
What I'm saying is, I don't think that people are going to the extents that a marriage should go to make it work for the sake of the family, which is where it's faulting at, and when we're seeing the higher divorce rate, because they're not.
But what
really
makes you think that? That's what I'm asking. Why do you think that?
Because of the divorce rate, and I think because of the culture that's being instilled, where it's about self gratification and
I think it's the opposite. I think it's more so that being married and having children is praised, and it's something that's held up on a pedestal. So people feel like they have to be in a rush to hurry up and get married, and then they rush into things that they're not actually prepared for. And then they do try to keep it together, but it's not actually possible because nobody wants to go through that.
Okay, tell that to the people wanting abortion very freely. Tell that to the mass amount of people that want abortion.
Wait, that's the same thing. It's people rushing into things. That you're still making the same argument. That doesn't change whether or not people want to get divorced or whether or not they're going through divorces all willy-nilly.
Well, one of the things
that's how people are treating it is willy-nilly. That's exactly how they're treating it. That's why.
But where can I find any evidence of this? I don't see this anywhere.
We overturned the law on it just a few years ago, buddy. Are you dense?
Wait, hold on. We're talking about a divorce right now. Where do you see that people are getting divorces all willy-nilly?
Well, I'm just saying the divorce about it.
Look at the divorce rate, how high it is. Wouldn't that indicate that as a large population, if more than half of marriages are going kaput, you don't think that? I
just gave you a reason for that, though, and I said that I think that it's because getting married is something that people want to do, and it's something that they feel pressured to do, that they rush into these things too quickly.
Yeah, and
that's supposed to be an excuse. Why do they feel? It's still a.
No, it's not an excuse. It's to say that they're not getting divorced all willy-nilly. That they're probably trying, but that they really did just rush into something that they were not prepared for.
Do you really think everybody's marriages, all those more than half the population percentage people, it's like 55% or something? You think all those people are actually getting beat up in all their marriages and they cannot find some source of help to make their marriage work? Do you really believe that, man?
It doesn't just have to be that there's abuse. It could be that they actually just do not. I promise.
No, you're not. You're going to obfuscate. Why?
Okay, well, allow me to obfuscate, and then if I do, tell me I did it, okay? The problem is...
That's how I know you can't answer the question, because it's yes or no. Do you know how to say?
What was...
The question is,
what was the yes or no question?
The question is because you keep talking about all these people that can't find this help and that it's not willy-nilly. And I'm saying, do you really think that all 55% of these people are getting beat up in their marriages and they seriously cannot find some source of help? Or do you think
and I said no because that's a straw man. That's not my position. I never took that position.
Okay,
I'm saying that it's not abuse.
So then brings me to my point. What other reasons do then the people not have to find some source of help? The larger percentage of people that are within that?
I was in the middle of answering that. So yeah, so I'm saying that a lot of these people, they actually don't get along with each other. They actually don't have similar values. They actually don't they're not capable of even liking each other after a certain amount of time, and they have a lot of resent for each other. This can also have a large amount of like psychological problems for somebody
you think all
who
these
has
people are
to.
just lying to each other, getting married? You don't think that they know anything about these people before they sign marriage papers and get up in front of each other's families and kiss and dance and do all this shit? You don't think that they know anything about each other?
Hold on.
No, I don't think that they're lying. I think that people change.
All right,
I'd like to hop in here for a second.
Hold on. I haven't said anything for the last 20 minutes. Hold on. The point is, it took 2 sentences for you guys to go from let's stop talking culture to right back to traditional marriages. There's not one thing has been discussed about policy. So I'd like to know, if you want to continue talking at all, Vance and Vern, what are you proposing in Texas? Do you support that?
Let me guess, Cmagz. Do you drink dark roast coffee and write in a leather like book in your journal?
No, bro. I give a shit about this. I don't drink alcohol and take ibuprofen before I go on a live. I actually give a shit about what I'm talking about.
That was a good one.
Well, here's the thing.
I like it. That was a good one, man. I'll take that.
All right, thanks. So are you going to answer the question?
Yeah. Here's the thing.
That was good. My bad.
How do you feel? No. How do you feel about the 10 Commandments being put in schools? Do you support that?
I think 4 through 10 for sure. I mean, they're just objectively good from a secular sense. Sure.
Okay. So how about we put the Quran in schools too, or do you support that?
Well, the Quran actually
that's the
also
thing.
has
That's why I said it's secularly good.
So,
what about all other religions? Can we put all other religious texts in? No. I want to know the answer to these questions. I don't want to know. Here's the thing. I want to know if that is acceptable for your worldview, because so far you've been talking about traditional marriages and whatnot, and I just want to know. I'm curious.
If you're asking for a worldview, then it's a little more nuanced than a yes or no. If you're asking worldview.
You're curtailing.
You were easy to say yes 4 through 10 on the commandments, but you're not. It's not easy enough to say yes on anything else.
Well, here's the thing, because you're curtailing the religion along with it. That's why I said in a secular sense, it would still be good. You don't even have to put Christianity, tied in with it. I mean, just objectively,
half of the 10 Commandments are about loving God and not having other idols.
I said 4 through 10.
Okay.
Exactly. So secularly, even in a secular sense, those are positive. So that's why they still should be in school. So yes, any Christian ethic, you can take the Christianity out of the Christian ethics, and I think a society will run very well, a lot better than nowadays. Not pushing Christianity down anybody, but the ethics that are, underlying it into society in a secular sense will still breed for the best culture, yes.
But I think that those things are taught anyways. So the
seventh. What's the 7th commandment? Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
No.
Okay. Well, the 7th commandment is to not cheat on your wife, basically. And
I thought it was that one.
Who did you vote for in 2024? I'm wondering.
Trump.
So why would you vote for somebody that went against one of the commandments that you say should be in schools and taught for traditional families, but you want that guy to run the country and make legislation for everybody else?
Well, here we can get down this path, but it's really benign, because once again, I mean, I'll concede that Donald Trump is 1,000 times worse as a person.
Then why'd you vote for him?
Because the right side is more traditionally conservative value endowed, I guess, as opposed to the left is super ultra progressive.
But you voted for the guy, like, you don't think that the person who's in charge is going to be the one that's going to take his ideals? Well, look at the way the country's going.
It's not his ideals. It's just the side that he is on.
Yeah, it's the side that he is on that he's representing.
It's not his ideas, man. We're not like some zombies like Trump supporters, dude.
Yeah. So that's one of the biggest problems with politics nowadays is people get their side, they get their big politician, and then they treat them like a deity, and then they worship at their feet like they are a god. And I don't do that with anybody.
But so far, we haven't really
Other
heard.
than
You have a
Jesus.
bunch of progressive people who are here. You have a bunch of liberals and Democrats who are here. And I haven't really heard anything that you guys actually disagree with us on when it comes to legislation. So I don't know what the big difference was for you.
What do you mean?
Why we're all here, we voted for Democrats. We're saying that we share a lot of the same concerns. We share a lot of the same values. We have a lot of the same wants. Yet we're
y'all are
here
more,
sitting
y'all
here
are
saying,
you're more tolerant to the things that I think y'all know innately are better as a society, but you just won't say it out loud like we do.
Yeah.
wait,
That's
but
one
Joe
of the
Biden
things.
and Kamala Harris were also Christians. Like we're not. It's not like we're voting against
I
these
would
things.
not. I'm sorry. I would not say they are Christians. I'm sorry. And listen, and who am I to say at the end of the day and take the thing out of my eye before I take it out of someone else's? But I'm just saying people use Christian as a label. So, you just got to have your discernment with that, and it's all between them and God, but you got to look
Okay,
at
on that note, I think we should wrap it up because it is getting late for me and we've been live for a few hours.
Yeah, we love you, Ann. Thanks for letting us on.
I don't know if I would say
Appreciate you guys coming on.
Hey, well, that's
What's wrong with
was
saying you love
burning.
somebody? We're all people. Lord have mercy. I ain't never going to speak to this person again.
My name is Vance Dudley.
What?
Okay.
I don't know.
What did he say? Why did he say he
I
loved
was-
you? That was so
I
weird.
was ready for the outro. They were going to be like, I'm Vance Dudley, and he was going to be like, this is Papa Vance or something. I don't even know which one was which, but I was ready for that.
Yeah, yeehaw.
I'm not convinced they know which one was which.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't know if they were serious at first, and I was really trying not to lose my shit, and then I just lost my shit and could not.
They were definitely putting the accents on a bit overly thick, but yeah.
No, maybe it was the alcohol and ibuprofen, though. So
That
it just
ibuprofen, dude.
gives
I
you-
get fucked up on some ibuprofen sometimes.
Tom,
It can be rough.
You're really good at that with finding these people with their fake accents too, because Jaden, he's apparently a voice actor or whatever, but he's the one who came up here and tried saying that I was working for Charlie Kirk in 2020, which is absolutely wild. But you caught on really quickly that it was that he was a
Yeah, I live in Georgia. You wouldn't be able to spot my country accents, but these people's they're a little
Hi, Miss Martha.
little too fake.
That was really, really good. I was like, damn. So, really good shit. Bad voice acting, I guess. Not
Okay,
qualified
cool.
enough.
I mean,
All right, well, that was a blast. Everybody that's still here, check out the website, see where we're going to be. If you can, help us on our journey, kindly click on the link, donate in the Act Blue link that's in there. We hope to see you on Monday. We do this Mondays and Thursdays, 8 o'clock Eastern, so we'll be here. Hopefully you guys are.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys follow Ann. Make sure you follow the content creators, and go follow the Unfuck America Tour channel as well.
and you guys can always reach out via DM for any of us if you have questions or something about the tour. Let me think. There was something else I was going to mention. You can check out our creator bios, and even if you guys can't afford tickets for the tour or can't make it to any of the stops that we have, we still have Act Blue links, and we still have a place where you can donate on the website as well. So you can check those out in the creators bios if they have them, or directly on the site. So that's it.
Cool, appreciate it, Ann. Thank you.
That's it.
Thanks,
for me.
Roseanne.
That's it.
Thanks,
for me.
Roseanne.